One common theme in crypto that we've been hearing about for the last 2 months has been the super cycle narrative. And this has been driven by a lot of players like CZ, for an example, that had said that, hey, crypto could enter a super cycle by 2026, driven by US politics, Fed easing, and institutional adoption. This got posted back in December. Obviously, since December, we are even lower right now in terms of price action. If you are, of course, looking at certain things, Bitcoin is slightly up and ranging around the same levels. But the main thing that we have been looking at, and I'm sure that a lot of you out there are probably even thinking the same, is if all this good news is happening, why is the price action down? Now, I've always said in the past that price action is not driven by any major announcement or even adoption or anything like that just yet. We're still tied back to Bitcoin. We're still in a hype and speculation driven market. We're not in a utility driven market where, the tech actually leads the price action. But we will get there at one point in time. But the main thing that I've also mentioned, and this goes all the way back to even 2024, where everyone was saying why is HOR pumping? Why is XRP pumping? All of this good news is all accumulation behind the scenes. Even though, yes, we have negative price action in front of us, all of the good news is accumulating behind that price action. Now, I bring all of this up because we recently got a big update from Monica Long, aka Ripple president, which we'll go over here in a second. I'm sure that by now you guys probably already know exactly what she said, but I want to give you guys my thoughts on this. So again, 2026 institutional era of crypto. I do believe that 2026 is going to be a huge year for institutional adoption of crypto, especially when we combine this with clarity and legislation becoming a big topic. Also, tokenization has been getting adopted in a rapid way, so that's not going to slow down. Stablecoins hitting crazy valuations in terms of how much value they're moving every single month. That's also not going to slow down. And then also we think about the individuals that are telling us that institutional adoption of crypto is starting this year and that this will be the institutional era of crypto, like, for example, Caroline D. Pham. Now, she did double down on this. On the 20th, she quoted a post from the NYSE because, yes, they are starting to build a tokenization platform for on-chain settlement of tokenized securities. This is definitely a big one. We've talked about it, right? It's a massive announcement. But we do have from Caroline, she said 2026 is the year of institutional adoption. Nailed it. And yeah, she doubled down on it. I do think that 2026 is going to be a bigger year than what most people are anticipating because, again, everyone is expecting the price action to just continue to chop and sell off. But the main thing that we are looking at here is fundamentals. The fundamentals are telling us that adoption is only going to, accelerate more and more. The value moving on chain is only going to accelerate more and more and grow in a big way. And almost every big player out there around TradFi will be moving on chain. Now, when we think about that, we also think about Ripple. We think about these companies that we follow on a daily basis. Now, Monica Long, the president of Ripple, did put out a great post. She said, after one of crypto's most exciting years in Ripple's, the industry is entering its production era. In 2026, we'll see the institutionalization of crypto. Again, this common theme, institutional era of crypto, institutional adoption of crypto, all of that happening this year. Everyone is on the same page. Trusted infrastructure and real utility will push banks, corporates, and providers from pilots to scale. Across stablecoins, on-chain assets, crypto custody, and broader institutional investment, a true inflection point for institutional adoption and the internet of value. With that, here are some of my top predictions for 2026. Right off the rip, we do have number one. Stablecoins will be the foundation for global settlement, not an alternative rail. As Visa, Stripe, and major institutions hardwire them into payment flows, B2B is the growth engine, with corporates using digital dollars to unlock real-time liquidity and capital efficiency. Now, I do know a lot of people were concerned about this statement saying, oh, there they go, replacing XRP yet again. No, this is actually reinforcing XRP. We've talked about this on so many different occasions, going all the way back to like the beginning of 2025. We've heard from major players at Ripple, including Monica Long herself, saying that the stablecoin ROUSD actually reinforces XRP's use case. This is not a replacement for XRP. Over here, we also have crypto is no longer speculative. It's becoming the operating layer of modern finance. By 2026, 50% of Fortune 500 companies will have crypto exposure or formalized DAT strategies, actively holding tokenized assets, on-chain T-bills, stablecoins, and programmable financial instruments. 50% of Fortune 500 companies. Absolutely insane to think of that number and just the names that could definitely have some sort of exposure to crypto. Institutional access is also expanding through capital markets. Crypto ETFs are accelerating exposure, yet only represent a small share of the broader market, underscoring room for major growth. As adoption scales, collateral mobility will also become a top use case, with 5 to 10% of capital market settlement moving on chain. That's also a very big amount of money. Crypto M&A reflects market maturity with $8.6 billion in deal volume in 2025, driven largely by institutions and custody emerging as the next major consolidation driver, as custody commodities spurring vertical integration and multi-custodian strategies. 50% of the world's top 50 banks will formalize new custody relationships in 2026. And is this her hinting at Ripple custody possibly being in the, conversation side of the market with major banks? Definitely could be the case, right? Because again, we already know that Ripple already works with some very large banks, especially around Ripple custody. So, 50% of the world's top 50 banks formalizing new custody relationships. I definitely think that Ripple could be tapped in on some of those top custody relationships this year. So now with that in mind, let's dive on into the full breakdown of her predictions. So obviously, main thing here, the 4 key areas of interest: stablecoins, on-chain assets, crypto custody, and automation through AI. Each will help drive a deeper integration of blockchain and digital assets into the global financial system. This is essentially the Internet of Value, the new financial system rising. So many people overlook just how big of an opportunity it is to be in crypto during this time. Price action sucks. I get it. However, when we think about what's happening here around our financial system, I am very confident that crypto will play a big role here, and especially those utility-based projects that we hold like XRP, XLM, HBAR, XDC, QNT, etc. They are going to be very large players in the evolution of our financial system. And with that, they can't be cheap. They just simply can't be cheap. So I feel very confident holding these assets regardless of what the market dynamic looks like in terms of price action. And we know that a new financial system is rising, which is why I think locking in on the fundamental side of things is so crucial during this time. Now, we look at stablecoins, the default for global settlement. We know every big player like Visa, Stripe, MasterCard, they're all moving with stablecoins right now. Within the next 5 years, stablecoins will become fully integrated into global payment systems, not as an alternative rail, but as the foundational one. In the US, the passage of the Genius Act has officially inaugurated the digital dollar era. Highly compliant US issued stablecoins, including ROUSD, will become the gold standard for programmable 24/7 global payments and serve as a critical source of collateral in modern financial markets. By 2027, I fully expect financial institutions to tap into the power of regulated stablecoins for 24/7 collateral mobility in capital market use cases. While retail use cases for stablecoins exist, the real growth engine is B2B. Research shows that last year, B2B payments became the largest real-world use case for stablecoins, reaching an annualized run rate of $76 billion, which this also is why Ripple acquired Rail, which is mainly focused on the B2B side of stablecoin growth. They actually are a major player in the movement of that $76 billion annualized run rate of stablecoins. Now, we also look at companies. Companies are sitting on unprecedented amounts of trapped capital, over 700 billion sitting idle on the S&P 1500 balance sheets alone, and more than 1.3 trillion euros across Europe. Stablecoins unlock all of that. But then we look at the institutional crypto exposure goes mainstream. So By the end of 2026, balance sheets will hold over 1 trillion in digital assets and roughly half of Fortune 500 companies. Guys, we're talking about well over 33% of the total market cap of crypto being held in balance sheets. I mean, guys, this is Fortune 500 companies holding massive amounts of digital assets. Again, the crypto market is not going to stay low. It's not going to stay as low as it is currently. I don't think that these assets are going to be cheap going forward. If we're looking at the overall data here, I mean, a Coinbase survey in 2025 gave us the data alone, which was 60% of Fortune 500 companies are actively working on blockchain initiatives. More than 200 public companies now hold Bitcoin as part of their treasury strategy. And digital asset treasury companies have grown from just 4 in 2020 to over 200 today, with nearly 100 formed in 2025 alone. So again, if we're thinking about all of this, I mean, there's just no way, in my opinion, that we are going to keep crypto down the way that it is. There's no way that these assets are going to stay cheap. I honestly think that we are at that major point of crypto, the tech, at least around crypto, getting adopted, being seen as extremely valuable. And from this point on, it's only going to grow faster than we ever thought possible. And we think about the defining year that 2025 really was for major key parts of crypto. Animoca Brands put out a great post regarding 2025 was the year tokenization took center stage. Now in 2026, new forces will define the market, one defined by scale, intelligence, and institutional depth. Here's a roundup of the 5 top trends that you can't ignore. Stablecoins as key institutional infrastructure. Yeah, we've moved past the explosive hockey stick growth into a phase of steady institutional integration. With mature regulatory frameworks and operational rails, stablecoins are becoming a primary settlement layer. A year of on-chain vaults. On-chain vaults are evolving quickly, no longer just for simple lending. They are becoming the primary vehicle for sophisticated on-chain asset management. Retail brands to lead consumer crypto. Global brands are the definitive bridge to the mainstream. With the expected passage of the Clarity Act, tokens hold the potential to transform from speculative assets into a universal standard for consumer loyalty and engagement. A pivotal moment for agentic AI. Crypto is the native language of AI commerce. 2026 marks the rise of agentic payments, autonomous AI agents directly transacting with businesses to coordinate economic activity. The race for on-chain privacy. As asset transfers mature, privacy will become a prerequisite. This is the year of rapid adoption for ZK proofs and digital identity solutions to protect institutional and retail users. When we think about all of these trends, yeah, these are the key trends that you can't ignore. But ultimately, when we think about going forward, what we're really witnessing here is a complete new system rising. All of these key things that we're looking at, all of the trends that we're looking at, all of these are pieces of the puzzle getting put together to officially go from traditional to digital. Every big player is looking at digital currencies. Every big player is looking at digital assets in a way of how they can reshape their business. We go over here to Ernst & Young. Institutional sentiment points to increased adoption of digital assets. Again, this was just back in June of 2024. Today, we know that this is happening. When we think about these predictions, when we think about these breakdowns, today we know that these were true. So if anyone is thinking about what we just read and saying, oh, yeah, but these are just predictions, they're not going to happen. This full breakdown gave us the playbook to go off of. We knew that institutional adoption was going to, accelerate faster than ever before. We knew that tokenization was going to grow rapidly. I mean, everything that we see in these documents, everything that we see in the data is telling us that this is really happening. Even if we go over here to a more recent breakdown from the 21st, from FX Hub to multi-asset market, how Singapore institutions are re-evaluating crypto. Everywhere around the world, every big institutional player is now looking at custody. They're looking at how they can participate. They're looking at how they can integrate crypto. Crypto adoption is now no longer at the point of, oh, let's run a few trials. Let's do, a few pilots. No, we're moving away from that. We're now at the point of real utility and real solutions being tapped in. 2025 was a defining year for crypto technology. 2026 will be the year where you see it in action. I don't think now as a retail investor is the time to be running away from the space. In fact, I think that we should be running even further into the space and doing even more research because, again, if you get left behind now, it's going to hurt even more in, a couple months. Because again, I don't think that crypto is slowing down. I've been in this space for well over now 6-8 years or so. And I've been around crypto for a very long time beyond that. But getting really embedded into the space, it's been about roughly like 6 or so years. And in that amount of time, I have watched crypto go from like this degenerate casino, essentially. It was like an online casino to now it's becoming a legitimate asset class where the technology is now having a spotlight put on it from the biggest TradFi guys, the largest asset management companies, the largest banks. I mean, we are in an evolving cycle of crypto where we're moving away from the, degeneracy to legitimacy. And we're also moving away from the trialing and piloting phase to the utilization and adoption phase. This is a very exciting time around crypto. And Monica Long is 100% correct. I do think that 2026, we're going to see mass institutionalization of crypto. And you're not going to want to miss that because, again, they're not just, throwing their name into the hat. No, they're bringing their name, their capital, and their users with them, and they're moving on chain. This is a big moment for crypto. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.